Welcome, everyone, to the first episode of the Country Club Leaders Podcast. I'm Leo McMahon, your host. I'm excited to be here with you today as we kick off a new series focused on helping young adults starting out in the club industry. In our first episode, I'm honored to introduce to you Coach Tony Gamboli, someone I've known for 60 years. The coach has dedicated his life to teaching and coaching, and we'll turn it over to the coach right now. Coach, welcome to the first podcast.
Happy to talk to you, Leo.
It's good to have you. Coach, as we get going here, can you tell us about how you got started in sports?
Well, it's kind of a long story. I'll try to make it relatively short. I was a baseball player, and in high school, I was a decent center fielder playing, and we got to the last season, my senior year, and we were losing, as I remember, 10-0 to a team, and the old Italian coach said, let's bring Gamboli in from center field. And I basically remember I came in and I think I pitched something like 4 1/3 innings and struck out all 13 batters. Left-handed, I threw the ball real hard. I had no idea where it was going, but it was one of those 3/4 left-handed where the ball is moving, darting, dropping, whatever. Anyway, my plan after my senior year was I was going to have tryouts as an outfielder basically, and I thought I could sign with somebody. The last game in June, my father was standing next to the athletic director as we were playing. And the athletic said, Mr. Gamboli, your son should really be going to college first before he does anything. My father was an old Italian guy that worked in a factory or whatever. And he said, oh, you think so? Anyway, I ended up 60 miles north of where I lived at a New Paltz Teachers College. I was up there on a Saturday taking the SATs, I guess, or whatever. Okay, long story short, I went up to New Paltz, and it was great. It wasn't much of a program going there, but I was the point guard on the basketball team. I played center field, pitched, and blah, blah, blah. I graduated. Went to Yankee Stadium, had a tryout. Still remember playing center field with the monuments behind me, whatever.
Wow.
The Yankees signed me. I ended up going off to play in the Florida State League my first year with the Yankees, and doing pretty well, actually. But one night in Orlando, there was a big, tall, right-handed guy throwing the ball, and the lights were low in center field. This was before they had the flap. I got hit in the temple. I was unconscious for a week or whatever.
Wow.
My parents were thrown down, and priest gave me last rites or whatever. Bottom line, God wasn't finished with me, and I recovered. They wouldn't let me finish the season, but I got promoted the next year to the Carolina League. I was doing okay, whatever. But back then, the Yankees had a good farm system, but guys were dying down there because there's no place to go. They had Mantle and Maris and whatever. So I ended up, they wanted to send me someplace. I don't remember, but I eventually got my release. And my fiance, Kate, was teaching in Sayville, and she had talked to the superintendent that I might be interested in teaching. Thank God I had graduated from college with a teacher's degree. This is an interesting part, Leo. I called the superintendent of schools in Sayville, and the conversation was not more than maybe 5 or 10 minutes. And he said to me, he said, I heard from your fiance that you were interested in teaching. We have an opening in Sayville. Would you be interested? And I sure would be. So he said, okay, you've got a job. Click. So never mind, I'm dropped. He never even met me, this guy. Anyway, I'm dropped into Sayville High School, disguised as a math teacher to work with kids. and that was the beginning of a wonderful, wonderful job, and it never was a job really. In 1965, this goes way back, I was given the freshman basketball job, and 1967, I was given the golf job. I really wanted the baseball, but we had a really good baseball guy coaching there that was very good. He wasn't going to retire. So there I was, and I had gotten my principal's license. And it was quite interesting that 1969, they opened a new school, a Lincoln Avenue Elementary School in Sable, and I had the opportunity to, go for that. But I got a call that the varsity basketball job was going to be open, and would I be interested? Because I had 3 years with the freshman team. I thought about the principalship for about 10 seconds, and I said, no way, I'm going to do that. So there I am, Sable High School, the varsity basketball job and the varsity golf program. So that's how I got interested, and I ended up being good at teaching the math. I knew the subject or whatever. Basketball, I was, I had played 4 years of college basketball, so I was okay there. With the golf, I was just trying to make a few extra bucks and whatever, and it was, and all you came along, Leo, and I'm pretty sure I had you in 6th grade, and then you were part of building a wonderful golf program, and you were on the varsity when you were freshman or sophomore. But I do remember, though, Leo, that you won the Long Island Junior Championship, which was pretty impressive. But that's where I got involved, and I love teaching. And along the way, I'm sure we're going to end up talking about, what have you learned? I'm 84 years old. I've been around the block a lot, and I have learned a lot, and we'll share a lot of thoughts on that.
What made you choose, because that had to be a big decision, what made you choose coaching over being a principal?
The principal, I was going to be out of contact, really up close and personal with kids. And Leo, I just fell in love with caring about kids. It wasn't so much the math and the basketball and the rest, but and a lot of this, I think, came from how I grew up. I grew up in a real tough situation, living in a rundown hotel that was, we were like squatters there, with no electricity, no plumbing. My mother had 8 sisters and 4 brothers, and my dad was off in World War II in New Guinea fighting in the Japanese in the jungles from 1942 to 45. And more than anything else, all that family situation was totally uneducated, and it was tough. No Christmas presents. There were no hugs. There wasn't any love, really. Anyway, I won't go into all the detail, but it's interesting how negative things like that turn out, that I ended up, because not having any of that at all, I immediately kind of working with kids. I had a compassion for kids, no problem taking my mask off and letting them know that I cared about them, I loved them. And that became, I think, the key to being able to teach. And we could go on and on this, Leo, but kind of emotional going back and going through this. And
right.
and talking about it, because you bury a lot of this stuff.
So I know you've told me about when you started teaching in high school, teaching math. You used to greet all the kids at the door before the class started. Can you go into the reasons why you did that?
Yeah, I just absolutely fell in love with teaching, and these vulnerable kids coming in, and I made sure that I always wanted to be there by the door, greet them when they're coming in, and then letting them in whatever ways I did. I don't know, but we had a bonding that they knew I cared about them and the rest, and what I really felt was opening the door for them to want to learn. And again, it goes back to, eventually when you get to the whole golf teaching, I collected a really good library of knowledge about the golf swing and the rest, and what goes on between the ears. And what I realized and got better as I went along was that it's never the teaching center, it's the learning center. And that learning, that all started with me, almost without knowing a lot of things, that with the kids, I'd go in and I'd teach my lesson. And after I taught my lesson in math, whatever over on the sideboard would be a small assignment, and I would tell the kids, say, look, now we finished with a lesson here. Over on the side is you have a little bit of work to do to see if whatever I did makes sense to you. If you ever work up to a half an hour on that assignment, you can stop. You have other things going on. You have other courses. You have to talk on the phone to your friends and all the rest. So through that, I never had the kids all of a sudden say, well, this is all right. And I go and check the homework and the rest, and they all made a deal at it. And the rest, when the class ended, I, maybe almost acting kind of crazy. It's hard to think about what you did, just reflexively. I'd stand by the door, say goodbye to the kids, punch some of the guys in the arm or so, have a good day. If you need any help or whatever, you want to talk, come see me ninth period. So that, I went on for 37 years doing that, and found out that I loved every minute of it. I never had a problem going in Monday morning and working with these young, vulnerable kids. And, of course, when I took my math knowledge and finished doing that, when I had basketball and when I had golf, it was like, wow, instead of 8 periods, this was the 9th period. So send my prayers at me, Leo.
Hey, Coach, I know you had one of your players, one guy on your golf team, Ralph Howe. He won a national championship, and then he played in the Masters. Can you expound a little bit about Ralph and how your relationship started out with him and where you are with Ralph today?
Yeah, Leo, he's one of many of the wonderful, wonderful kids that I've kept connection with the golf program. I ended up getting a lot of good athletes, coming out, for golf, and Ralph comes along, and I ran a sports camp in the summer, and Ralph was at every session. In fact, if I remember correctly, I think it was ages 10 to 16 or so, and Ralph was 8 years old and lied about his age and, snuck in. And I set up a little golf course, and as an 8-year-old, he beat everybody and won it. Anyway, he went on, and he had a couple passes for his parents and a couple other people to go down to the Masters. I think it was late 80s, '86, maybe '87. So I went down, and that was a wonderful experience. Spent a week with him down there. He didn't make the cut, but he was there, for Thursday, Friday, and from there he went and he played in the Asian tour, and he did a lot of things. But eventually got married, and then he ended up going to China and ran a clinic over there. Very connected with the big guy in the sky, and became a pastor. So after going to China and running a golf clinic, golf business, I guess, over there, he adopted two Chinese kids and came back. And presently, he is in Orlando. And Ralph is just trying to think. He's about 68 years old, I guess, right now. He's doing great. He's a pastor in a church in Orlando, and he's got four wonderful kids. And
that's a great story.
On my birthday, I get a phone call every year. Hi, Coach. Just calling to tell you I love you. So, what comes back, Leo, is the amazing part that through all these years, whatever I've given out has come back to me tenfold with the relationships, and that's why you and I, geez, Leo, you and I have known each other for a million years, and I'll tell you this story too. I hope Tommy doesn't cut this out of our conversation, but you came from a wonderful, wonderful family. Your mom was great. Your dad worked his tail off. You had brothers and sisters and all the rest. And when you were, I think, around 17 years old or whatever, your dad passed away. And I remember going to the wake, and I told your mom, I said, Mrs. McMahon, don't worry about Leo. I'll keep an eye on him. And here we are. I'm 84. You're approaching 70. And Leo, I'm still trying to keep an eye on you. I took Kerry. I took my white station wagon and sold it to you for $100. You remember that?
Exactly.
It's all.
You know what I'm learning, Coach? None of us got here on a straight line. Ralph had a few bumps in the road. You had a few bumps in the road. I had a few bumps in the road. And we all seem to turn out pretty well. Can you tell us a little bit about Jesse Fitzgerald? I know Jesse won the New York State Open one year. Give us a couple stories about Jesse, if you can.
Jesse was great. We talk about golf, and I have such strong feelings about young people. And again, I actually, worked with the girls too. I started the girls program in Sable, and in New York State actually, and it's applicable to the girls and the boys and the rest. But playing the game of golf is I don't know if I have the words to describe all that's so important that comes through golf besides hitting the little white ball. You're on your own. You have to be honest with what's going on. You have to be able to handle adversity big time. Golf is a completely different game than basketball or football, whatever, the little white ball that you're trying to move forward and put it in the hole. And the frustration that comes along with it, you get a bad break. How are you going to handle that? You're out playing pretty good, and all of a sudden you're out and it's starting to rain. All of a sudden you got wind. There's so much that, and the big thing with all my golf teams, there were certain things that I taught, and the kids knew about it. One of the big, as far as practice and working at it, one of the signs I had on my window, I remember, was if what you did yesterday looks good today, you haven't done much today. So you kept humility about the game, and we had rules. You had to dress appropriately. You had to have good manners on the course. Anybody that ever was caught cursing, throwing a club, anything like that, you get a 1 week vacation. Clubs go in the garage. So it passed on, and the most important thing was that the young kids learned from the older kids. When I had 8th and 9th graders, and they looked up to the juniors and the seniors, and those guys were great role models all the way through. You were one of them, and the program exploded after you guys played. So we're back to Jesse. Jesse was just another one of those wonderful kids in the mold, and he went to South Carolina his first year on a full ride with golf, and played, and then eventually transferred and came to St. John's. And the nice thing about Jesse right now, he's doing very well. He's the assistant pro at Garden City. I'm not sure if it's Garden City Country Club or Men's Club, but whatever one. They take really good care of him. Being an assistant is kind of tough sometimes, as far as, trying to find a head job. But where he is, the members love him. He gets a lot of lessons, and trying to think of something, Leo, where, we had, I had a surprise 80th birthday, and Jesse couldn't make it, but he knocks on the door one day, and all of a sudden he comes in, gives me a hug, and gives me a Garden City golf shirt as a present. So that's
nice.
That's that stuff, Leo. Again, I've been so friggin' blessed with the connections and with all these kids that have gone, hundreds of them through the program.
That's
beyond,
pretty nice.
Yeah, it goes beyond just, and I was given some wonderful honors, along the way. We never talked about winning. Winning was never, ever part of it. But, I ended up my career and the rest, and we won, close to 700 matches, and I mean, we lost 50, something like that, whatever it was. But, and I kind of laugh, and I said, I don't believe this is happening. But I ended up given the National High School Golf Coach of the Year, and Kate and I flown out to Las Vegas, and it was all great. And then inducted, into the National Hall of Fame and all that stuff. And I sit back and I said, those are nice, but that's really not what it's all about. Those plaques and the rest are collecting dust right now. But the relationships that I have with the kids, that's foremost. That's out front.
I know just on my team, and you coached a lot of teams. Just on my team, we had a NASA scientist, a teacher at Oxford, and a lawyer. And if you would have told me when we were all going to high school together that we were going to get some of those results, I would have said, you're kidding me. But, just one team, you had a lot of success after golf. Coach,
yep.
I don't want to mention any names, but you told me one story one time. It was a rainy night, and one of your players is knocking at your door in the middle of the night. Can you go into that a little bit without mentioning any names?
Yeah, well, that's kind of an emotional thing, and so many memories and the rest. But one of the kids on my team was adopted, and the mother was really not really good with. I guess there were 2 or 3 kids in the family, but anyway, smashed him, hit him. He had a black eye or whatever, and he lived probably a good mile and a half from where I live. But all of a sudden, I got a knock on the door, and there's this kid with in the pouring rain, tears coming down his eyes, and he's got his golf bag on his shoulder, and he came to my house, and anyway, I tried to handle it the best I could, and the good news that he ended up being an assistant pro and doing very, very well, and now is working for a corporation that is doing well, and he's a salesman, and he's top salesman. So it's good. And the other thing, married off, and 4 or 5 wonderful girls that are.
That's a great story.
They're all into golf. Yeah, lots of stories, Leo.
Now, you were telling me just a couple of weeks ago, one of your players became a monk. Go into that one a little bit.
Yeah, I'm trying to think how this all occurred. The kid's name is, well, whoever's listening to this, they can Google Corey Muscara, Muscara. Corey played in our championship golf team. We won the county championship, and we went to Bethpage Black to play for the Long Island Championship, which for us it's like the state championship to play the Nassau Country Club. Anyway, the thing I remember was it's a very close match, and it's coming down to the last hole, and the 18th hole at Bethpage Black is a par 4, and Corey is our last group coming in, and it's going to depending on his match, and he hits a good drive, but then he hits the next one short in the rough below the hole, and it's very, very uphill and the rest, and I'm kind of walking in that, and he can see me and whatever. He's going up, and he's in the heavy rough and all the rest, and he looks at me with a smile, and he says, "Coach, I got this." And he goes over and somehow slashes it out of the rough on the green about 10 feet and knocks it in for par, and we win the Long Island Championship. Wonderful kid, and then he goes off after college to a monastery that he's there for, I think, a year. I'm not sure if it's less than that, but I'm pretty sure it was a year. It's one of these monasteries where you don't speak or whatever. But the good news, the flip side of that is, again, as I said, anybody listening to this, Google him and you'll see he is world renowned, and he is all over giving lectures and all the rest. And it's all about leading a meaningful life. And he has touched loads of people. I'm a little remiss in not reading some of his books or whatever, but I have emailed him a few times. So, but it's worth whoever ends up listening to this to Google Corey Muscara.
Yeah, I Googled him the other day. It's an impressive story.
Yeah.
You also have one of your players that works for Callaway. Can you tell us a little bit about that player?
Yeah, Jim Saluga. It was a wonderful kid, and he ended up going to college, and his major was mechanical engineering, and he has now is one of the top engineers for Callaway out in California. And yeah, all kinds of stuff. Leo brings back memories like crazy, and the connection with these kids. Yeah. Well, anyway, one summer, and it was Christmas time. I'm going back a good probably 10 years ago, and all of a sudden I get a present, and in comes a nice set of irons, and there's a note that, Coach, I think you need new clubs. So I got the irons, and then that was great, and then the woods came, driver, 3-wood, and a utility club. And that was all great. And then the last present comes is the beautiful Callaway bag. So, again, whatever you given out comes back to me tenfold in that situation. Reminds me of
you need
Kenny Barnes.
You needed a new set too.
Yeah, I still have them. Well, your teammate, Kenny Barnes.
That's right. Yeah, tell us about Kenny. Yes, absolutely.
That was nuts. This one,
Kenny taught at Oxford. Kenny taught at Oxford over in England.
I don't know if I can tell this, but Kerry, he played number 2 on our team, and obviously you were number 1. Again, you guys graduated in 75 or 74, whatever. Anyway, one Christmas, I get this nice present. It's a beautiful book, and it said where it all began. St. Andrews, beautiful book, and I open it up, and it says, "Hi, Coach. Take me a long time to be able to thank you for all that you've done or whatever, but turn the page." I turn the page, and there's an itinerary of airline tickets to go over. I get emotional thinking about, as I looked at this, to go over to Ireland and Scotland, and to play 5 or 6 days in a row, and on it it's got St. Andrews, Carnoustie, and the rest, and then at the bottom it says, "Oh, P.S. I've contacted your son. He's coming also." So I sat there, and Kate walked by and say, "Why are you crying?" All right, Leo, no more personal stories about the old coach. Let's talk about other stuff.
Well, I have one. I was director of golf at Bellport Country Club a few years back. And one summer, a hot summer, July and August, I was told we have to teach 60 kids from a summer camp that knew nothing about golf. And we had 4 mats on our driving range, and we have 60 kids showing up in an hour. And it's really hot out, and it's a long summer, and I'm like, man, this is the last thing I need, right? And the coach, he says, "Leo, this is going to be great. Don't sweat this." So I said, "All right, coach." And these 60 kids showed up, and we had a great time. I think we formed 4 lines of 15 kids on each line, and we had the kids that weren't hitting balls doing something. I don't know, jumping jacks or working on their grip or something. But it went smoothly, and the kids had fun, and we had fun. And we did it every week for 4 weeks, but it turned a disaster into something that we look forward to, actually. And that was because of you. It wouldn't have went that well if I was in charge of that one. But that was a funny story. And the other one I remember, I was always trying to turn these junior golfers into the next Jack Nicklaus or Nancy Lopez. I was really trying videotaping them, writing notes, and giving them drills and trying to come up with the next Jack Nicklaus. And I was getting pretty frustrated. So the coach he says, Leo, if they go home and at the end of the day, at dinner time, they tell their parents they had fun at the golf course, we did our jobs. And once you told me that, it just became so much easier to teach kids. It was a pleasure, when they went home, they were smiling and we did our jobs. And that was rewarding, actually. It was a good lesson for me to learn, for sure.
I love coming over there, Leo.
You were good. Another time, the coach has got like 20 kids, and these kids are like between 10, 9, 8 years old, 7 years old. And there's 20 kids gathered around the coach on the putting green, and he's got a shag bag, and there was no golf balls, and it was filled with candy, Jolly Ranchers.
That's right.
So, sure all these kids are listening, and all these kids are listening intently. And I hear the coach saying, "You're gonna go home after this lesson, and you're gonna do something nice for your parents, and you're not gonna tell them what you did. You're just gonna do something really nice for them, but you're not gonna tell them. And then you're gonna come back here next week and tell us all what was a nice thing that you did for your parents." It was, and these kids were eating it up. They loved every second of it. It was fun to watch. Go ahead,
There
Coach.
were times, though, Leo, when I really enjoyed running those the junior camp there. It was so much fun. But afterwards, I'm not sure whether those kids kept coming back for sometimes an extra session, or they came back the following year. I'm not sure if they're coming back for our great golf instruction. I think they're coming back for those Jolly Ranchers.
I know you taught a couple of guys, Terry Riley and Brendan Riley. Can you go into a little bit about those two guys?
Yeah, just again, they're just Brendan Riley. He had a great career through golf. He was the assistant pro at the Floridian in Florida, where when that was first built, there's only one member, and that was Wayne Heisinger, who built it or whatever. And there was one interesting story there was my wife and I were down in Florida, and Brendan is the assistant pro there, and they had the big three, Nicholas, Palmer, and Gary Player, show up there for a benefit to raise some money. They were, I think, Gary Player was in charge of it. I think they were trying to raise money for kids in South Africa, educationally kind of thing. We're watching that, and then I see the big three up there, and there are a couple of guys going up and shaking hands with them and getting a picture taken and the rest. So I look at Kate and I say, Kate, look, that line, there's nobody in that line anymore. I'm gone. So I go up there, I go over, I shake hands with Nicholas and Palmer and Player, and I get in there, and it looked like a professional photographer there, takes a picture, whatever. When I come back, Brendan Riley and Kate are laughing like crazy, almost on their knees. And they said, "What are you laughing at?" And they said, Brendan looked at me and he said, "Coach, those guys that were going up there with those guys and getting their picture taken are the guys that are going to be playing with them. And each of them paid $20,000 to come and play in it." And I said, "Oh my God." Brendan said, "Don't worry, Coach, I'll get the picture to you." So as I sit here and I look at my desk, just above it is this big, enormous, I'm looking at it, it's got to be 15 by 18 or so, matted and beautiful. It says Floridian and there's the picture of the big three and me with this big grin and my arm around Arnold Palmer. So that's another story about Brendan. And then I'm teaching in Sable in May. I'm not remember the year, but I get a phone call. I said, Brendan, I'm teaching. I can't coach. I'm getting married. And Mr. Heisinger is giving me the Floridian for the reception. You got to come down. And I don't know if you knew that, but Kate and I flew, we're back here on Long Island, and the two of us, it was the end of May, flew down, and we go to the Floridian, we go to the church, and then we go to the Floridian, and that's where the reception is. And as we're at this absolutely gorgeous clubhouse at the Floridian, we hear a noise, and we look, and here comes this hunter green helicopter coming in and landing in a pad right next to where we were, and out comes Mr. and Mrs. Heisinger to the reception. So
nice.
It's just
nice.
So many stories, and we're not going to go on with my stories anymore, Leo. Talk about something else like posture, grip, and alignment. But again, it all goes back to just relationships and the rest, and caring for people, and take your mask off and say, I love you. That's where it is.
Now Terry Riley, he's a sports agent, right? Brendan's brother?
And Terry's, absolutely super, and still a very, very good player. He's Brendan's older brother, and I know he's still connected with Ricky Fowler, and he had at one point he was with John Daly, and he was with John Daly a lot to keep him out of trouble. I hope this story is true, but I'm pretty sure it's true, that John Daly probably got an appearance fee or whatever to go over and play in the German Open, and Terry would shake his head and tell me, Coach, I got to go. I got to keep an eye on him. So he he would end up going over there with John Daly. But interesting thing too, got a chance to meet John Daly, and he's a big goofus guy kind of thing and all the rest. But I'd say he's a wonderful human being. He's done a lot of things for other people, and people sometimes get the wrong impression from what the media portrays John Daly along the way. But there's a real very positive side to him. I thought he was terrific.
So I guess as we close it,
we were just talking about tennis. I know he still has Luke List, I think, who's out there, and but he did have Jason Day too, I think, that he
right. He just won this past week, right?
Yeah, he just won by one stroke, I think, and first time in 5 years. And that's another interesting story, Jason Day. You can read anything about him. He's another great guy that fought lots of adversity, but made it to the top, and a great guy.
So, Coach, as we wrap this up, what I'm getting out of all this is it's not so much the golf or the math or the golf swing. It's about the relationships that you've built over the years. And along the way, starting out with, in high school and then right up to present day, you've just built some really impressive relationships and connections with your players and with the people in your life. And you're a great role model to all of us. And I just want to say thank you on behalf of everybody that played for you and was taught by you in school. You've done a great job, and you made an impact on a lot of lives.
Yeah, Leo, what you said is just so true about relationships that it's, one of the things I've learned is that it's not what you have in your life, but it's who you have in your life that counts. That's that's really, one of the things that I think is just, other things that, when I was going to talk to you, I jotted down a couple of things that I remember. Another thing why relationships are so important that I've learned that money is a lousy way of keeping score. and one I just jotted these two things down, Leo. They're important. I want to say, I'm 84 and I've been around the block a million times, and things that you've learned, and these are a few things that I remember, and I want to make sure I told you that you can keep going long after you can't, and you should always leave loved ones with loving words. It may be the last time you see them. So that goes back to your relationships, Leo, and thanks for having me on. I'm going to say hello to Tom, who played number 5 on our golf team and never lost a match. And Leo, I'm going to leave it with, I love you, Leo. Bye.
Thanks,
now.
Coach. I love you too. And to everybody, my brother Tom is editing this first podcast. My brother Tom McMahon in Seattle, Washington. He played on Coach's team back in 1969. But anyway, everybody, thanks for listening in to this first podcast. Again, we're trying to help young people move up the ladder in the club industry. And Coach, thanks a lot. We appreciate everything you did for us. Thank you. Have a good day, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.